Sup? I'm not fooling anybody with this, am I? But I woke up early today, not only because I had a splitting headache, but because I just felt, I felt overwhelmingly compelled to make this video. Spoilers for the Hunter x Hunter manga. So when I started this channel, I sort of asked myself if I would cover each batch of Hunter x Hunter when it comes out. And at this point, I think I'm still not going to do that. I think I'm going to leave more qualified creators to doing that, like New World Review or the Hunter Society or other people who are providing incredible recap information and stuff that has been really helping me keep track of this extremely complicated arc. But that doesn't mean that I don't have things to say or I don't have observations. And I sort of just wanted to sit in front of a camera today and just really yap about something that has been on my mind lately reading the newest chapters, because in the chapters that are being published as I'm recording this, she's a bit absent. I'm of course thinking of Morena Prudo, who is the leader of the Haley. I have the impression that she is a character Togashi has wanted to create or write for an incredibly long time. And I say that not only because of some of the stuff she's had in the story so far, but also because of just the fact that she has had only a small amount of page time, yet she's had a color page and she's been on the cover of a volume of Hunter x Hunter already, despite the fact that you would seemingly think that a character from this arc who's more important as an antagonist like Tsureidnik or even one of the other princes would have a cover first. But that's not the case. Hunter x Hunter is a story that has quite a bit of optimism, and Morena specifically seems like the final form of nihilism itself, which is just incredibly interesting and offers a sort of immediate dichotomy to everything the series has been about, but also acts as also an evolution of stuff the series has dabbled in already with the Chimera Ant arc. She mentions, of course, that her goal currently on the Black Whale is to destroy the Kakian Empire, but her ultimate goal is to destroy humanity, and that seems like an incredibly cliche villain thing, but she actually has an incredibly dark and rich backstory that makes me uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And I feel like in the West, a lot of writers, and I don't really want to get too like pseudo-political, but I feel like a lot of writers, and especially male writers, are sort of encouraged not to write female characters with the kind of content in Morena's backstory, because I think that it's probably, a lot of readers don't really like approaching that world. But I really appreciate Togashi and Hunter x Hunter as a piece of fiction for not only broaching that world, but incorporating it into a world that already has its own complexities and evils. I'm sort of dancing around the topic here, but what I'm talking about is the kind of stuff that involves places like an island with a white and blue building, which I won't go into. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Sadly, that stuff is real, and that stuff is literally just part of our world, and naturally leads to people becoming nihilistic like Morena. And Morena, as somebody who's suffered evils that are perpetrated in places like that, embodies just this really dark yet really real perspective that is shocking to see in something like Weekly Shonen Jump. I mean, I know older Shonen Jump titles like Bastard and other titles that are not coming to mind right now. A lot of those older titles from the 80s and 90s have content like what I'm talking about. But Shonen Jump has been pretty sanitized since the late 90s, I think since One Piece's introduction. So the fact that Togashi can get away with a colored page of a man holding a child's eyeless severed head is just nuts. But that's even beside the point, because I'm not talking about Tsureidnik and all of his craziness, which is almost a level above Morena. It's genuinely disgusting, but it doesn't really feel like it's too much. Like I said about Morena and how her story traits, a lot of writers I think are encouraged not to go there, just for a multitude of reasons. Tsureidnik is also the kind of character who is, a lot of people would consider overdone. He's pretty edgy, but Togashi just depicts him in a way that is believable. And I think with some of the stuff playing out right now, especially with the Phantom Troops backstory, a lot of what Tsureidnik gets up to is in fact also very real. But we're getting off topic. We're talking about her right here. It's very interesting to me because despite the overwhelming hatred of her goals, there just seems to be this sweetness to her, which is disturbing in its own way given her backstory, but it's almost contradictory on purpose. And one of the biggest traits of Hunter x Hunter, exemplified in something Jing says, we should enjoy the little detours to the fullest. It's been a while since I've read the chairman election arc, so pardon me. Morena herself, though, this is pointed out by the YouTuber The Little Detours in his incredible video, the villain who was disguised as the author all along wrong or something like that, which I did just watch, but I've watched multiple times. I'm not trying to plagiarize him or anything, but I had some observations that he made as well. She likes playing card games. She enjoys talking to the people she's trying to induct into the Haley. She seems to have this almost carefreeness about her, despite having incredibly lofty and incredibly nihilistic goals. She seems to be embodying enjoy the little detours in almost a negative direction to the rest of the story and to characters like Gon and Jing and everybody else. She is enjoying the little detours, but her ultimate goal is the destruction of everything. And in that way, I think she's an agent of chaos, not unlike Heath Ledger's Joker, which is another character people, I think, nowadays consider to be a little much. You would not be encouraged to write a character like the Joker anymore. But he serves the story he's from, and I feel the same way about Morena. You know, characters like him and her, they have their own ideas, and they enjoy doing what they're doing. They come from somewhere, if you've heard of the theories of Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker being a veteran from the War on Terror with PTSD from some of the lines he says about a truck full of soldiers getting blown up, things like that, which I think is actually, for Nolan's Batman universe, I feel like that makes sense. There's political commentary going on there, which those movies are full of, for better or worse. But it also just makes sense with everything the Joker is good at, because he clearly understands demolitions, he understands espionage, he knows how to take things down from within, and he has perspective of outside as well. And that seems to be like exactly what Morena's doing with the Haley and her contagion Nen ability, which is terrifying, by the way. It's like literally a zombie virus, and it just adds to more of her backstory, because like the way she discovered it is just so gross and so sad. But as she spreads her contagion out and the Haley just go off and do whatever the hell they want and kill as many people as they want, I think it is very obviously going to barrel into every other story, what every other character is doing on the Black Whale, if it hasn't already, which it has, because it is very relevant to what the Phantom Troop are doing. It's going to be very relevant to the Royal Army, because now we have Borkson in her ranks, who is going to be a specialist and is clearly going to have to do things for Morena now. And speaking of the chaos the Haley is inciting, let me show you something. This is from volume 38, which came out in English in January of this year. What chapter is this? Give me a sec. This is 5 pages into chapter 394. But do you see what's going on here? I might throw it up on screen and post as well. This is literally the Haley chopping their victims up and cooking them into the food. This is something I don't see anybody talking about when we're talking about the stuff going on in Hunter x Hunter right now, which is fair because there is just so much in every little page and panel. So if things get lost, I understand, but look at this. Mont Black Toto, Conjurer, cleaner/feed manufacturing. There are three pots on this stove here boiling with all of these corpses chopped up as they're chopping up another victim. The Haley is literally putting people in the food supply on the Black Whale. Nobody's talking about this. And it's really just one example of what kind of chaos Morena is ensuing. We know that she's somewhere between levels 2 and 3, which is not very far away from level 1. So inevitably when Krollo gets up to level 1, he has to. There's no way he's not. Because there's this three-way thing going on with Saridnik having Pyro's head and having the red eyes of the Kurta clan, and Kurapika obviously knowing that he at least has the red eyes and trying to get to him, and then Krollo not only trying to get Kakin's treasures, but his backstory and Sarasa's death definitely being at the hands of the Haley, for sure. And then of course, Kurapika's relationship with the Phantom Troop, which we all know. That's like a three-way triangle that's going to explode. And there's all these little things that are related to it too, including like Hisoka and going for the Phantom Troop, and whatever possible communication Hisoka might have with Kurapika, if that happens. I mean, I'm not Togashi, I don't know. His brain is way bigger than mine, man. But all of it is just, it's all tied together, and once Krollo gets up to level 1, I wouldn't be surprised if Morena follows. Not in the sense that she's gonna go start doing stuff herself, because she's definitely going to sit back and let other people do her dirty work, but she's in the story for a reason. I think one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video where I just sort of sit down and yap is not only to sort of start a series on my channel where I just sit down and yap, but also because I've actually been watching Hunter x Hunter with my father, and I've watched quite a bit of anime with my dad. I've watched Full Metal Alchemist, both of them, watched Attack on Titan, we watched Angel Beats and Soul Eater, if you can believe it. And it's just something I really enjoy doing, but I feel like he's sort of having a hard time with Hunter x Hunter. Admittedly, the first arc is pretty juvenile and also somewhat slow. And I'm not trying to downplay how good it is, because I understand the importance of the first arc of Hunter x Hunter and what it sort of sets up for the story going forward, for the characters. But there's just a lot of contrast right now with what's going on in the manga versus that first part of the manga. And we're watching the Hunter exam, and Gon is learning how to catch birds with his fishing rod so that he can try to get Hisoka's badge. And I'm watching this child cast his fishing rod at birds and then jump with joy when he catches one. And then I think about this extremely dark and complex political thriller. It has so many moving parts, it's hard to keep track of things. There's so many named characters, and most of them have at least one, but some of them have 2 or 3 different abilities. And we're jumping through time, and we're jumping between levels on the Black Whale, and we have to keep track of characters that we don't see for whole spans of chapters. It's genuinely crazy. Like, I feel like there's a case to be made about the Secession War being one of the most complex works of fiction in current mainstream consciousness. I mean, I don't know what else to compare it to other than maybe House of Leaves or The Familiar by Mark Z. Danielski, or maybe Homestuck, or having dense lore like the Dungeons and Dragons universe. I don't know. What else? There's just nothing like it. Game of Thrones. My friend right now is reading Game of Thrones, and even he says it's not as complex as the Secession War. And he says if it wasn't a visual medium, there would be no keeping track of anything. But what I'm getting at is that this contrast between Gon like persevering with this incredibly simple task in this arguably juvenile story arc, compared to like what's going on in the current story right now, especially with an antagonist like Morena. It's like I literally woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, what even is this story, man? In a good way. That wasn't derogatory. It's really just whatever Togashi wants it to be. And again, going back to some stuff that a lot of Western writers are advised to do, I feel like, or maybe it's not just Western writers, it's just writers in general, the idea of having an editor is important, and people who don't get edited, like George Lucas with the prequels, end up making something that's kind of a mess. But something I really like about Hunter x Hunter is that it really looks like Togashi just is not on a leash at all. It really just feels entirely like his creative vision, and he just brings in whatever he wants to be in the story, and the Shonen Jump editorial department just lets him do it, which is based and awesome, but a lot of stories sort of collapse when they have that freedom. But I feel like Morena, who sort of, as I've said before, represents a lot of the story in a negative way, sort of holds it all together. She's really in the background, but then when you see a cover like this, she's more important than she first appears. And Togashi is clearly exploring the consequences of what happened to people when they are victimized by empires like the Kakian Empire, or any regime that has a host of wealth and power and basically can't be punished. Its victim becomes perpetrator, and it's yet another trait that I feel like a lot of people relate to and a lot of people really like in fiction, but sometimes writers are encouraged not to do. If you couldn't tell, I really don't like that. I feel like writing should be able to go anywhere. Obviously, anything can become a bit much or unnuanced, or even in some cases offensive to some people if not handled with the proper care, but you could say that about anything. I would really prefer just reading stuff that is wholly an author's vision, and Hunter x Hunter is just exactly that. There's also some really pointed Christian imagery with Morena, and Christian imagery in the antagonist is something that Togashi does all the time. Think of Crollo's last name being Lucilfer, which sounds almost exactly like Lucifer, and he's got a cross on his forehead. We have that recent color illustration of Sereidnik with Pyro's head, where he's looking very holy. We have volume 28 here, which depicts Yupi, Shiapuf, and Pito looking like a painting motif that has been painted multiple times by multiple artists, which is called the Coronation of the Virgin Mary. And I think it's debatable whether Togashi is trying to make some kind of statement with all of that art, or if he just likes the aesthetic and he likes the juxtaposition of using holy and, symbols that are, I suppose, culturally accepted as righteous. I mean, Lucifer isn't culturally accepted as righteous, but he's part of Christian mythos. Yeah, whatever, you get the point. And Morena is, of course, wearing the crown of thorns, which Jesus was forced to wear during his crucifixion in mockery of being king of the Jews. It's also believed by some scholars to represent the curse of Genesis. Cursed is the ground because of you. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. Genesis 3:17. Obviously, regardless of what your beliefs are, I think we can agree that Jesus as a symbol is the furthest thing possible from nihilism. A character that completely embodies chaos, wearing the crown of thorns, is a mockery and a juxtaposition indeed. There's just so many interesting things going on with her. Like, her card game is an interesting example. It's not a game I could sit here and tell you all the rules for. It's something I actually just reread before recording this video. Togashi loves his rules. Togashi loves over-explaining things. That's just part of the charm of his writing. But that card game is is a really unique and interesting way of characterizing Morena while also giving the reader information about her backstory. And when I say characterizing, it's because it's a card game that she enjoys playing, where you have a chance to get out of it unscathed if you don't want to join her. So it's incredibly high risk, but like anything in the Nen system, it's high risk, high reward. And by playing this card game, anybody she's trying to induct into the Haley can learn a bit about her, and she can learn a bit about them. And I just can't help but think, what a pain in the ass way to vet people for your group. But it makes sense it's her ability, because even though there's a chance of getting out, it's a slim chance, and you're definitely intimidated the whole time, so it's just a coercion game, yet she also answers all questions honestly and fairly, almost like she's giving people she interviews something she never got herself. But at the same time, if you choose not to join, she'll still kill you. I do not know what I would do if I had to play that card game. I don't envy Borkson. I really pity her. And honestly, I pity Morena too. I know this wasn't a super structured video, and a lot of what I said has been said elsewhere, but I don't know, I just wanted to yap.